Joel Embiid just told the media, I must be the most unlucky player in the world. And he might be right. His team blew 2 #1 overall picks. Ben Simmons was such a bad fit, he recently said, I don't talk to Joe. We never really spoke. The only guy Joel loved playing with was Jimmy Butler, who they traded to Miami. They passed on Jason Tatum to draft Markelle Fultz. The GM who decided that tweeted about his own players from a burner account. He said Philly was Ben's team. He wanted to trade Embiid for Kristaps Porzingis, gave out sensitive information, outlined team strategies. Now, Joel is out of shape because he had pain in his foot in the offseason, but nobody cares. His own fan base is tired of excuses. In 2014, he fell from the #1 pick to #3 because of a foot injury. He debuted 2 years later, but didn't win Rookie of the Year because of a meniscus tear. 2018, ran into Markelle Fultz, broke his face, wore a mask in the playoffs, had knee issues, and a stomach flu in 2019. His only healthy playoffs was 2020, but Ben Simmons was injured and they got swept. The next year, Joel hurt his knee, which led to Nikola Jokic winning MVP, and last season he played with a torn ligament in his thumb. So people roll their eyes when they hear that Joel Embiid has a foot injury. But does that mean Embiid will eventually demand a trade? Well, after the Heat beat Philly last year, Jimmy Butler said on national TV he wishes he was still a Sixer. So Embiid responded, tweeting, Miami needs another star. But if Joel really wanted to trade, he would let us know. Dude speaks his mind. He once said about JJ Redick's defense, honestly, I thought it was going to be trash, but he's been pretty good. He asked Kim Kardashian to slide into his DMs. When Ben Simmons was traded, he tweeted a photo of a meme that says, I went to my biggest hater's funeral to make sure he's dead. R.I.P. bozo. Embiid always tells us what he's thinking, but it's obvious something is bothering him. The fun side of Embiid is gone. It looks like the joy has been sucked out of basketball. Reminds me of Russell Westbrook. He even refused to speak to the media after the second game. What's going on? The Sixers started the season 0-3 after what we were told was a great offseason. James Harden took less money. They signed PJ Tucker, DeAnthony Melton, and Daniel House. That looked good on paper, but so far it's a disaster. Turns out a backcourt of Tyrese Maxey and James Harden is awful on defense. Tobias Harris ain't great either. Their biggest problem is transition defense. Look at this. Jaylen Brown just sprints ahead of Tobias Harris and Montrezl Harrell. Open dunk. James Harden is guarding, let's see, no one. Open three-pointer. The only guy fast enough is Tyrese Maxey, who's a horrible defender. Embiid always has trouble getting back, but in the past, he's had teammates like Ben Simmons and Danny Green to cover. They made Philly at least average defending the break. They still have Matisse Thybulle, but Doc refuses to play him because of his bad offense. Philly didn't extend his contract. With Matisse, it's either suck on defense or have a black hole and play 5-on-4 on offense.
You couldn't make a layup consistently till 8th grade?
I mean, yeah, no, I could not. I would get a steal, miss a layup, and give it right back to him. And then it became this fear.
The Sixers are dead last in the NBA in transition defense. That is not a title contender. I don't care if it's early. Embiid would normally swoop in and save the day, but got dominated by Jakob Poeltl because of his offseason injury. James Harden has been their best player, but remember his stat line for Game 6 against Miami. 4 for 9 when it counted most. Nobody cares about Harden in the regular season, but they can't get rid of him. He's not good enough to replace in a trade. The best they can do is fire Doc Rivers. But there are rumors he would be replaced with Mike D'Antoni. Great! Another coach who always fails in the big game. Embiid's biggest fear is that he's wasting his prime, and any team leaning on Doc Rivers and James Harden is screwed. What if he's realizing that before our eyes? Think about this. He's 28 years old, under contract until he's 32. With his bad health, that might not just be his prime, that could be his career. He's gonna waste all that on a losing team, but there's a big problem with Embiid too. Back in 2008, the league made a shift away from big men. The Celtics won a championship with a traditional center, Kevin Garnett, as their best player. Maybe it was Paul Pierce, but before that, Shaq, Tim Duncan dominated. Then, the best player was not a dominant center. Kobe, LeBron, Kawhi, Dirk, Steph, Kevin Durant, Giannis. A center hasn't won as the best player in over a decade. So Embiid must be on a team with a proven playoff winner, and Philly hasn't been able to do that. They've given him awkward fits with Ben Simmons and Al Horford, gave Tobias Harris a 5-year max contract, traded his best friend Jimmy Butler, only to watch him go to the finals the next year. So the only way he's gonna win is by demanding a trade. So I wanna look at how that would even go down. After this season, he's under contract for 3 more years, plus a player option at $58 million. By the way, can you imagine him ever turning down $58 million to explore free agency? If he demands a trade, Philly would obviously want a Godfather offer of a bunch of players and picks. The only teams with a bunch of first-round picks are the Thunder and Jazz with the most first and pick swaps, followed by the Spurs and Pelicans, then the Magic, Pacers, and Grizzlies at 8 and 9. And the only teams that make sense to make that one last piece trade are the Pelicans, the Knicks, and Memphis. They would all be in position to go in for a prime Embiid to put them over the top. So his best teammate would either be Zion, Ja, or RJ Barrett. 1, 2, 3 in the 2019 draft. You might think the Pelicans are an awkward fit because Zion scores in the paint, but he has played with a traditional center in Steven Adams and now Jonas Valanciunas. Let's be honest about New York. Embiid is the perfect personality to deal with their disgruntled fan base, but as constructed, they're not good enough. So Memphis would be the best fit. They feel like one big piece away from really contending, and they've drafted so well, Philly would love their young players. But ultimately, Embiid will never demand a trade for 2 reasons. First, we all just saw what happened with Kevin Durant. KD demands a trade. No one wanted to pay that big price. The same thing would happen with Joel. Philly would demand the world, but teams aren't going to pay that with his injury history. So all a trade demand would do is just ruin his reputation he's built in Philly, poison the locker room, and he wouldn't even get traded. But the second reason is he does feel loyal to the Sixers. After his meniscus tear in 2017, they still offered him a gigantic contract. And somebody recently asked Embiid, "Oh man, you played so well. Are you upset you didn't get more money?" And he was like, "No, this team took a chance on me after the draft foot injury and a meniscus tear. People thought I would be the next Greg Oden. I am grateful to this team." But Embiid's fear is that they can't build that team around him to win. He has given them chance after chance and year after year, and the best they can come up with is Doc Rivers and James Harden. And the best LeBron could do for himself was getting Russell Westbrook. But there is trade news because Shams now says there's really one player that they are looking at. Check it out.